What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Star Wars Outlaws yet again and talk about polish. It's a word that we've heard used, and I don't actually disagree with it, right? Don't let me put it down here. But we've heard it quite a bit with this game over the last few weeks, and I think things are starting to come into focus, right? Because you got about a month. The game comes out about a month from now. It's going to be in the hands of creators and influencers and journalists, probably in just a few weeks, and, we're almost there. It's almost go time. And, this has really been started up, right? I would say because of the last little IGN bit, right? So IGN's been doing some features on Outlaws, and, they showed that 10-minute gameplay, and that word polish was used quite often in the comments and just by people, generally watching it. Explosions and facial features and things like that didn't seem as up to snuff as I think people wanted. Now, this is something we deal with, I think, with every game, and I think it can be accelerated, or it can be like bigger for some games versus others, right? As the game gets closer and when the game actually comes out, sometimes you'll see that downgrade, right? From like the best it looked in a trailer to then the game comes out and it's like, oh, it doesn't look as good as you showed it off to be. The thing with Outlaws that's tough and actually a little scary, something I've talked about before, so I'll just like reiterate it. My excitement primarily lies with what they've told us, okay? Now, not necessarily with what we've seen. It's been fine what we've seen, but I've never been blown away, by it all that much. Now, it's also a time to throw in, like, visuals aren't everything to me, but at the same time, you're putting me in an open-world Star Wars game. I guess visuals are only not important if they're not really supposed to be important, right? Like, if there's some other element of the game that's supposed to take over or be better, then that's what you would focus on. For this game, it's obviously kind of a mix. You think of Massive, you think of, like, the Avatar game, which I think look absolutely beautiful. I'm not expecting this game to look like that or as good as it, but, like, one of the big highlights and one of the big features of this game is putting you in an open world Star Wars game. And so you need to feel like you're in a Star Wars game. And there's many ways to do it and more than one way to make you feel like you're in it. But visuals is one of them, right? Like if you're not feeling it, if the explosions look like something out of, I guess, like a Return of the Jedi or something, great movie, but it's a little old at this point. I don't know if that's going to help people feel like they're in the world of Star Wars. Again, coupled with the fact that we have seen, I think, a downgrade from the best that this game has looked to some of the more raw gameplay recently. And, it's something I've asked for. Like I've said before, with really all games, I want raw gameplay. Don't cut it, right? Don't have these little splicing kind of moments. Just show me 5-10 minutes of you running around doing stuff. And generally, that's kind of what we got in that IGN thing. The problem is it didn't look like it had that polish to it. And it's not like it's not like that build was 4 or 5 months ago or like a year ago. The game comes out next month. Now, I think Ubisoft did respond to that by saying like, hey, we look forward to showing more stuff and the game's going to look much better like in those things. Okay, but why was it not looking like that in the IGN thing? And again, to circle back to my point a few minutes ago, for me, it's always been about what they've said. And I've tried to give them, I think I've been honest with this, and I think my videos would back it up. I've tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Where it's like, recruiting people to get abilities, like that's really cool. That's different. The wanted system and how that could play out, and what they're gonna send your way. That's super cool. Even the travel of this game, I think, is super cool. Like a lot of the things that they have said, the way they've kind of broken or gone against the Ubisoft formula, right? They've constantly talked about you're not gonna have 1,000 question marks on the map, and it's only like a 30-hour game instead of like a 100-hour game. A lot of the things they're saying, I quite like. Then we see it, and it looks fine, but it doesn't give me that same excitement as what I'm reading. And that's why I've always kind of said with this game, and I would still say it now, to be quite honest with you, it's about the end product. This is a game that I think is really, really hard to judge. I mean, most games are, but this game maybe in particular, it's hard to judge right now. Like, it's really going to take to when this game comes out for all the things that we've heard they either implement it or they're not. They're either going to work or they're not. But polish is important too, right? Because if all these things are in the game, but they're not great or they don't work well or they're going to require all of these patches or the visuals are just flat out not up to snuff, which, to be honest with you, like her face and just facial models in general with this game have always looked quite weak. I feel like people have said it before. I don't think it's all that controversial. They've always been, I would say, below 2024 standards, and I think it's only gotten worse, I would say, the last little while. Now, does that mean that it changes or doesn't change when the game comes out? That's something you have to, you know what I mean? That's another example of kind of waiting on it to see. But another thing I want to throw in to kind of end this is, you know, when you think of polish and you think of, you know, I just said it with like updates and stuff, right? Like the game wouldn't necessarily be doomed at launch because you could fix it after, quote unquote, right? But is there the patience of people to do that? And I think that's a really important thing to throw out, including even myself. Like, I've constantly talked about, and I'm a different kind of gamer than most, right? Where I'm going to get, I think, more games this fall than most, you know, average people. But for me, it's like, well, Outlaws comes out a week after Black Myth Wukong, comes out a few days before Harry Potter Quidditch Champions and Casting of Frank Stone and Astrobot and Stalker and Space Marine, and there's so many games is my point. If the game suffers at launch, if the game is not doing all that great performance-wise and polish-wise, you know, up to snuff, even if they can fix it, you know, through patches weeks or months later, number one, we're in an impatient age, which I don't think is kind of wrong. Actually, in the sense of gaming, I don't think it's wrong at all. I think we've almost been trained to not be patient. And, you know, there's so many games coming out. There's so many different entities trying to like vie for our time and our money. We don't have time for Star Wars Outlaws to take 2 months to fix itself. And that is something I think we need to consider, or maybe not really we can make our own choices, and we either get it, not get it down the line. You get it for $30, you know, maybe 2-3 months later, they do it on sale for Black Friday. Like, we make those decisions, right? For Ubisoft, it's like, this thing better be ready day one, because it went gold like 2 months early, right? And it's like, okay, well, during that time now, you better be working on the best possible way of getting this game out as polished as possible, you know, when it releases through these day one patches. I mean, in fact, that's like the only thing they should be working on right now is, let's do this patch, then day one, anything we're a little uncertain about is going to be addressed right away. And they've had plenty of time because the game went gold a while ago, right? If it doesn't, and if it takes a long time to kind of fix itself, I don't know if it has a long time. You know, it's not a live service game, so you don't necessarily keep people that long, or the point is not to keep people that long, and you have a lot of competition. And in fact, let me throw out one final thing here. You also have your own competition in Assassin's Creed. Like, yeah, it's middle of November. I think it's like the 15th or something. But say it takes Outlaws like a month or so to fix itself through patches and to fix that polish, right? Well, now you're into October, and you got like 1 month left until Assassin's Creed Shadows, which might steal from Outlaws because, you know, generally I think there's a lot of overlap there. So that's something that these games both have to come out and be ready to go at day one. I mean, that goes into the delaying and all that kind of stuff, right? If this game is not ready, do not release it on August 30th or 31st, whatever day it is. Do not do it, right? Like, make sure that game is ready to rock when it's time to. So I just want to, you know, throw that out there. I've noticed it. I think anybody can kind of notice it, where it's like, yeah, something seemed a little off. And it didn't look as like put together, let's say. Now, it was a little bit more raw than other showings that they did of it, but that's like a risk reward you have when you do that, right? Like, if you condense it, if you make it very like, okay, we're going to do this thing, this thing, this thing, we're going to have all of these cuts, you can make it look however you want. If you let it go, if you don't have cuts, right, you get more of the IGN thing, which is good because that's how we play it. We play it like that. They show it off the other way. But when we're playing it, I mean, you got to also make it high quality, you know, as well. You can't just have it be uncut and say, well, here's the product, right? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.